Good morning, guys. So today's video is a little different. As you can see, we are in my kitchen, and excuse the fact that we're still renovating, so things will be changing as you guys see me recording in my kitchen throughout the year. Today, I'm going to teach you how to make your kombucha less vinegary. So I tend to neglect my kombucha. I will let it sit for months, unfortunately, on the counter. I do keep it in a dark, cool area, so it's not always over here. I just brought it over here for the case of the video. But if you leave it, it does become vinegar. The positive of that is I haven't purchased vinegar in a long time. You can save it and you can use it as vinegar in recipes or any other place that you would use vinegar. You can substitute your kombucha that has turned to vinegar. The problem is returning your kombucha back to kombucha versus vinegar. So today I'm going to show you how I do that. To start, I'm just going to wash my hands. You want to keep everything as clean as possible. So my hands are clean and dry. And I am just going to take the SCOBY out of my jug and place it in this clean bowl. And as you can see, your SCOBY will get layers. So each time you make it, it will form different layers. And as it grows, it will build. You can also get these brown, stringy looking pieces. Those are not bad. They are not mold. All right, and I grabbed another bowl. I do sell pieces of my SCOBY on Facebook Marketplace that I just keep in here. And as you can see, these have grown layers and these have gotten big, but I haven't sold any recently. So I am just going to feed these pieces to the chickens. There's nothing wrong with them. They're very healthy. They are still a probiotic and the chickens will benefit from them. I am just going to be keeping this piece, and I may even peel a few layers off of this before I put it back in, just so it's not so thick and so strong. This will continue to grow and feeds off of the sugar that you put in your tea to make your kombucha. Next step, like I said, you can save this, and this is basically just a vinegar. You can substitute it in recipes or however you want. I'm just going to pour a little bit in with my SCOBY that I can put back in here. And I'm going to dump out the rest. Again, I could have fed that to the chickens. It's still good. There's still nothing wrong with it. So I am going to give this a good scrub and rinse and get it cleaned out really nicely. All right, my jar is cleaned out, and while I'm letting that sit for a few minutes, I am actually going to start my tea. I'm just going to take a pot and fill it most of the way with water, and then I'm going to add sugar and my tea bags. I no longer measure. If you would like, I will put a picture up here of the brand and company of where I originally purchased my SCOBY and what their recommendations are for measurements. I want to say on the back of the bag, it is for a half-gallon jar. I have this big jar, so I'm going to be using this and filling it all the way. I don't really measure anymore. I go based off what I already know and what works for me. And because your SCOBY is basically a living thing, you will learn what it likes and how it grows and how it benefits and works best as you use it. And now that my pot is filled up most of the way, I'm just going to get it on the stove and get it started. When I go to put the hot tea into the jar, I am actually already going to have this jar halfway filled with cold water, just because you don't want the temperature that you use for your kombucha to mess with your SCOBY. If your SCOBY gets too hot or too cold, it can kill it. There have been times where I've just dumped the hot tea in, mixed in cold water, and called it a day, and mine is still thriving. There are always exceptions, but if you're just starting out and you don't want to risk it, I would recommend filling your jar halfway with cold water, and then you can dump your hot tea in and then place your SCOBY back on top. Another option is you can let your tea come to room temperature. That does take a while, so I just choose to do the quicker method. So I've got my cold water in half of my jug. I've got my chicken SCOBY pieces. Like I said, I do sell these on Facebook Marketplace, so I try to keep little layers and pull them apart. That way I can just plop them in a jar with a little bit of my kombucha, and people can start their own when they get home. Like I said, I am going to pull some of this apart. I think I'm just going to half it. All right. So this is the piece that I will put back in my jar, my big jar here. And this piece I will feed to the chickens. It's so big. It's crazy how it grows. Like I said, it feeds off the sugar. It's one of those things like sourdough that once you've got the hang of it, you really don't think much about it. It becomes almost routine. Okay, before I add my sugar and my tea into my boiling water, I just want to share that you can use basically any tea. Any tea will continue to produce kombucha. I choose to use a black tea. I just use tea bags. I'll actually show you the one that I'm using. And you can use a green tea. If you use a flavored tea, it will change the whole outcome of your kombucha. It will stay in there until you basically clean it out, until you restart. If you are a purist and you are somebody who doesn't use tea bags, I'm usually, if I drink hot tea, I use loose leaf tea. You can obviously do that. You just have to filter it. Yes, I do know, and I have read the studies about tea bags. You have to pick and choose your battles. Again, you can always use a loose leaf tea. You can also use a decaffeinated tea. So my husband accidentally bought these. He does not drink decaffeinated iced tea. He does drink this brand in the caffeinated one. So he bought these. I'm going to use them anyway. I've been using these up and I have not noticed a difference in the outcome of the final product of my kombucha. Because these are for bulk tea making and are larger tea bags, I'm only going to use 5. If they were smaller, I might use 6 to 8. I like mine to be very strong and very dark. I know some people only use 4. That's totally okay. Like I said, this is going to be something that you learn how you prefer it. So a lot of what I'm mentioning is preference. So I've got out my big bucket of sugar. I've got my boiling water. This is a 1/3 cup measuring scoop. Like I said, I don't really measure, but I'm just trying to give you guys an idea. So there's 1 cup. I'm gonna do 2 cups for these 4 cups of water. Again, I have this jug already half full. I'm just going to mix it until the sugar dissolves. This water is boiling, so it'll only take a minute or so. And then I'm going to add my tea bags. All right, so the sugar is all dissolved. I've got my 5 tea bags. I'm just going to add those and let it sit for about 5 minutes. Another thing that used to concern me when I first started is occasionally, like I said, I used to just dump my tea right in on top of my SCOBY, and sometimes it would sink to the bottom and other times it would stay floating. And this is just another thing that happens. Sometimes it sinks, sometimes it floats. It does not mean it's bad. It does not mean it's good. Neither is better than the other. It's just how it works. Again, it's a living thing, so it's regularly changing. While the tea is sitting, I just want to go over a couple things. So once I get my tea and my SCOBY back in here, I will let it sit. My preference is usually 5 to 7 days. I like mine sweeter. Again, your SCOBY feeds off the sugar. So if you like your kombucha less sweet as a final outcome, you can let it sit longer, say 7 to 10 days. If you like it sweeter, maybe 3 days is your sweet spot. You can also always add a sugary product when you drain your tea to let it do its second ferment. That second ferment is when you get that final kombucha taste and that final product that you're looking for with all of that carbonation. So I like to put mine in these bottles. I want to say they were on sale at Hobby Lobby for originally $6.99. I got mine for $4. And I usually, from this big jug, can fill at least 3 of these. Some flavors that I found that I really like are pineapple, blueberry, and apple. So with my apple one, I just add my home canned applesauce. Delicious. The pineapple one I find gets the most carbonation. Again, it feeds off the sugars. So if you have a sugary product that you put in here with your tea, you will get that carbonation, you will get that buildup. I really like these because they do have the pop tops. They come with a little seal. I choose to use these pop top lids just because they're convenient. When I feed my sourdough in the morning, I just pop them open. They come with these little seals on them. So I just close it like that, leave it right on my counter, and then every morning, pop it open, take the lid off, seal it back up, and leave it. So for your second fermentation, once you've got your tea in here and you're setting it on the counter, again, my sweet spot is about 5 days. It will depend. There are a lot of factors when it comes to your second fermentation, how full you fill the jar, how sugary the additive is, or if you're just making a plain kombucha. It may take a little bit longer. It may take a little bit less time. You'll want to taste it and continue to taste it until you get the product that you like. And like I keep saying, it's really personal preference, and a lot of these time frames are personal to me. So like I said, about 5 days is my sweet spot, and I will put this in the fridge. Once you have it in the fridge, your carbonation will stop producing. After I've put it in the fridge, I still like to pop it open at least every day. I usually pop it open when I drink it. I go through about one of these bottles in 2 to 3 days. But like I said, if I have 3 bottles and they're all done around the same time and I put all 3 in the fridge, I will pop them just to be safe. If you've ever done kombucha, you may have had ones explode where you pop the top open and it's so carbonated that it just spews out and makes a whole mess. It happens. It really is a learning process. So my tea is officially done, and I've got my cold water in here. So I'm just going to take the hot tea and pour it right in. And give it a good little mix. Yeah, and right now it really is just tea. So I haven't put any of my previous tea in there. All right, so my phone ran out of storage, but again, I just had my previous liquid in here to jumpstart this, as well as my SCOBY, set them right on top, and it's ready to go. And like I said, your SCOBY can sink, it can float, doesn't matter either way. It doesn't mean one's better than the other. And I'm just going to set this back in a cool, dark area. And I'm going to start checking it around 4 days. Like I said, usually 7 days is my sweet spot. I like to check it around 4 to 5 days and keep up with it. Just going to take it back over here. So this is the company where I purchased my original live SCOBY from. Like I said, it makes about a half gallon. And the directions are right here on the back. Like I said, I will add a photo in a previous clip. That way you can screenshot it and you will have it for yourself as you start out. Like I mentioned, I sell mine right on Facebook Marketplace, just little pieces with a little bit of jump start. That way you can dump it into your own jar and make your own tea and start your own kombucha. I sell mine for $5. I want to say this was $12 to $18. So if you have some local, it doesn't hurt to try. You can always try starting your own. I tried that for a while and it didn't work. So this is what I went with. And like I said, there have been times where just now I've previously neglected this. I have not taken care of it or fed it since probably right after Christmas time. And it's perfectly fine. Like I said, it does become vinegar, but with the method that we just used, it will start right back up. And now I will have kombucha in another couple weeks. I am going to go give the rest of this to the chickens, and I hope that was helpful, and I will see you guys next video. Thank you for watching. what is it called? Oh, carbonation.